A New York City apartment for $800 a month. It's real. I'm standing in it right now. But there is a major reason why no one's moving in here anytime soon. I feel like I'm standing in a time capsule from the 70s. This is a one-bedroom apartment in the Bronx that rents for $811 a month. That's if the landlord were to actually put it up for rent. This is a rent-stabilized apartment, but look around. The landlord says there is so much work that has to be done here to bring it up to code that it doesn't make financial sense to rent it out.
The owner is deciding to lose less money by just keeping it vacant.
Kenny Burgos is the CEO of the New York Apartment Association, and he advocates on behalf of landlords who own rent-stabilized apartments like this one in Mount Eden. He says it's been vacant since the last tenant moved out around 2021.
Apartment that was lived in for a number of years, probably a few decades.
We walked around and saw chipped and peeling lead paint, an outdated bathroom, and that red carpet, far from luxurious.
But not exactly the red carpet people want to walk into.
Why is this apartment still vacant so many years later?
Because the law today says that when the tenant moves out, you still, of course, before law and after, you would have to upgrade and renovate this unit and bring it up to the current housing standard of 2026. The difference is now the law says we don't really care what you spend. You cannot change the rent from the previous tenant.
To understand how we got here, you have to rewind to 2019, when Albany passed a landmark change to the state's rent laws. It killed something called the vacancy bonus. That was an old rule that let landlords raise the rent by as much as 20% every single time a tenant moved out.
So it's really a crisis.
State Assemblywoman Linda Rosenthal, chair of the Housing Committee, voted for that bill.
We found that with the 20% vacancy bonus, it was an incentive for landlords to harass tenants out. Finally, we righted the scales. Landlords didn't like that, and what they said immediately after we passed it was, we're going to keep apartments off the market.
Tenant advocates say that one reason that some landlords are leaving apartments like this vacant is that they're waiting for the law to change so that it's more favorable to them. What do you say to that?
I say, what do they then say to landlords who have already gone bankrupt, who've already been in foreclosure?
So both sides are dug in, and while they fight it out, real people are stuck in the middle. People like Troy.
I live in a Tier 2 shelter right now, and that's why I have a voucher now.
Troy Williams has spent the last 2 years trying to get back into a place of his own.
And I'm really trying to, get back to where I was this time 2 years ago.
Burgos says there's a fix that could get Troy a key to a new home and get the owner a paying tenant at the same time. He's calling for a reinstatement of something called Section 610. It's a policy Governor Kathy Hochul enacted in 2022 that allowed some landlords of low-income buildings to accept the full amount of a housing voucher even if the legal rent was lower.
Still keeping this unit regulated, still registering its legal rent every single year. And so that way you place someone in this home who needs it. It doesn't cost them anymore because they have the voucher, and it brings the needed housing supply, and it eases the shelter system.
But the city stopped taking new applications for that program, caught between a tight budget and uncertainty over federal funding.
Some of that we rely on the federal government for. But I must say that nobody is here to guarantee a huge income off anything here in this city. What about tenants' issues? No one's guaranteeing that they have enough money to pay the rent.
Something's wrong here. Something definitely wrong here.
So just how many rent-stabilized apartments are sitting empty? Well, the City Reporter, an outlet here in New York City, actually just dug into this. They released the findings of a public records request with the city's Department of Housing, Preservation, and Development and found that the vacancy rate of rent-stabilized apartments is 5.4%. That represents 57,000 vacant units across New York City, and it's way up from the 3.7% vacancy rate about 10 years ago, also much higher than the 1.4% vacancy rate currently for all apartments citywide. Experts say that very low vacancy rate is really fueling the increased costs that we're seeing, driving up these prices, and right now New York City is the most unaffordable city in the country. Now, that same agency actually says that there's fewer than 2,500 apartments that have been vacant for a year or more, needing extensive repairs with rents below $1,000. Whatever the number, there's a possible fix coming from Albany because the brand new state budget just passed actually allows landlords to recoup up to $50,000 of repairs that they need to do to these apartments to get them back online. That's if the apartments were vacant in 2022, 2023, or 2024. I'm going to keep following this story. If you want to see my next report, please hit subscribe and check out this story next.